What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a brand spanking new episode of Hoops All In. If you guys are new, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In, as well as follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And don't forget to subscribe and follow Keith's Hoops All In YouTube channel at Keith HAI. He does great work over there as we are just getting things wrapped up in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Keys, how you doing, man? What's up? What's going on?
I'm good. It's been a great first round. I mean, we've still got some series that could still go 7 games. We've seen some series end or basically be over already. And I think this has been a playoff so far that, we needed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree.
But
Definitely.
I'm going to start something new today where at the beginning of each episode, I'm going to ask it's going to be called the question of the day. I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
It's not going to necessarily be trivia. It might just be like a something where we figure out maybe your favorite player in a scenario or about a team or whatever. But
Okay.
today we're going to start off with who are your favorite players or player to
Ooh.
watch when they are completely like on fire. They can't miss. Maybe they're going for 40, 50, whoever it is, but I don't want to hear Steph Curry. I don't want to hear Kevin Durant. I want to hear you don't give me a top 10 player. I can tell you my answer because it happened from a playoff game that really like solidified my answer. I think mine's Jalen Green. I think when Jalen Green is on and he's scoring, there's not many people that's more entertaining. He can shoot the three. He is one of the most athletic guards we have in this league where he can dunk on you. He can finish around the rim. He can shoot. And, that game 2 versus the Warriors in the playoffs that he had, where I believe he had like 38, solidified that answer for me.
Okay. I like that answer. So it can't be a top 10 player.
Yeah. And I don't want to,
Um,
obviously, those guys are great to watch when they're on fire, but we see that a lot. So I want to hear someone that,
okay.
maybe is around Jalen Green level. It could be the eighth man on a team for all I care. But
All right. Well, I guess Anthony Edwards is out the question. Is not the
yes,
answer
yes,
because he had a great game against the Lakers in Game 4. I'm probably gonna have to go with Ant Man's teammate Julius Randle. The big question mark
okay.
on Julius Randle is that can he show up in the playoffs? We know he's a great regular season player. He
Yeah.
averages 20-25, but
Mhm.
can he show up in the playoffs, especially against the last 3 games against the Lakers, 27, 22, and 25? And he's got a post up, he's strong, he's got a mid-range, he's got the three-point shot down, he's got the handle. So I definitely like Julius Randle's game. I think you're starting to see the vision what the Minnesota Timberwolves had with trading away Carl Anthony Towns and getting a guy who could getting a guy like Julius Randle who could stretch the floor a little bit more and can finish down low in the paint. So I got to go with Jay Randle.
Yeah, he does a lot of other things. He's a good rebounder. I think he's had some seasons where he's averaged double digit rebounds. He's a good playmaker too for his position and a decent defender. So, um, and he's made a few All NBA teams in his career too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that answer. But next, we're going to talk about the NBA survey. Anonymous survey came out recently, and there are different things that came up about this. Obviously, I believe the headline for this was the most overrated player being Tyrese Halliburton by a overwhelming, like it was like I think 15% of the votes went to Tyrese Halliburton. Um, how do you feel about that? Do you think Tyrese Halliburton is overrated?
I wouldn't say he's overrated, and I don't know like what kind of issues these NBA players, his NBA peers, may have with Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, this guy made the All Star last year.
Mhm,
He probably wasn't an ideal choice for the Olympic team last year. That may be where a little bit of that envy and jealousy came from. But
mhm,
for the regular season, he started the regular season slow, picked it up towards the halfway point. He averaged for the season almost 19 points a game and 9 assists The last couple of games in this series against the Bucks, 17-15, 14-10, 21-12. So
Mhm.
that doesn't scream overrated to me. Maybe it could just be, we all know Tyrese Burton likes to talk trash. He's not the strongest guy in the world. He's very, very scrawny and weak. And, we saw the back and forth that he had with Damian Lillard, especially in the first round of the playoffs with the Bucks. And obviously, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Shout out to Damian Lillard, man. Thoughts and prayers go out to you. Speedy recovery. But maybe
Yes.
I just think it's because Tyrese Halliburton is just a shit talker. People don't like shit talkers, especially if you haven't accomplished anything in the league so far. You
Mhm.
don't have one All-Star. Okay, you were pretty much the person in that science project. You didn't do anything, but you got an A+ because you got carried by greats like LeBron, Steph,
Yeah.
KD, Ant-Man. So I think it maybe is just his mouth rubs people the wrong way, just how like Draymond Green's mouth runs people the wrong way because Draymond Green, if it was without Steph and Clay and KD, he wouldn't have 4 championship rings. So I guess that where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's because he does have games where like he really doesn't he like ends the game with like 7 shots or something. Like sometimes he looks to just play make when he's a guy that can average 20 and 10. It's not like he's just averaging 10 points a game or so, and he's one of the best shooters in the league too, even with that funky jump shot. So
Mm,
um, now the next one, most underrated, about 9% of the poll said Cade Cunningham. I think that's just because I think that's because he's just blossoming, I would say, because he was a first overall pick and
yeah.
he was on a bad team. So I guess now that he's on a playoff team and he's the guy for the first season, maybe that's what makes him underrated. But
I don't know. I don't like that. I don't agree with that at all because
yeah,
again, like you mentioned, he was the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft a couple of years ago.
yeah,
When you're the #1 overall pick, you are projected to be good. A team is picking you to be the face of their franchise. So you expect it to be great in the next couple of years. So that him being underrated is like I don't make any it doesn't make any sense. It's
yeah.
idiotic. Somebody who I would have liked to see be named most underrated NBA player by his NBA peers is a guy like maybe Derek White or maybe Isaiah Hartenstein, though, or even Alex Caruso. Those players who do things that don't show up on the stat sheets, the second chance hustle points, the defenses, the block shots, the deflections, all that type of stuff. Derek White, remember a couple of games in this series, he had like what 30 points.
Yeah, first game he had 30.
So
But he was second by like a sliver, I believe, from what I see, Derek White.
bro, he should have been
But
#1 in my opinion.
yeah, I think again Cade's pretty much as all. Yeah, I mean, he was an all-star for the first time. I think it's just because people maybe just because it's his first year really on the scene. But yeah, I'm gonna read these other ones. If you have any issues with it, just stop me. Players in the league you'd least like to fight. 63% said James Johnson.
Agree. Oh yeah, agree. That's no question. James
Um,
Johnson, he a terrifier.
best organization, 22% said the Warriors. Um,
Okay, I'm not mad at that.
worst organization, 38% said Charlotte.
I
That
think
that
I think the Wizards will also be knocking on their doorstep and say, "Hello, remember us?" Because they've been in purgatory for God knows how long.
but I think they're doing the right things over there. They're on their way to be doing the right things. They've got some promising things over there. Charlotte, I mean, they technically do, but the injuries and just other than LaMelo and Brandon Miller, I kind of don't know what else to make of that team, sort of. So, face of the league in 5 years, 54% said Wemby. Um,
Yeah.
best coach, Mark Daigneault, 22% almost.
Okay. Really, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised Eric Spoelstra is not up there because Spoelstra has done a lot with less than
Yeah, I
coaches
think
do with more.
recency bias. Again, they do
Probably,
this
yeah.
typically, I think, every year. So might be more of a um this might be more of a current thing than it is like just guys kind of in their whole career.
Okay.
Um we got who will most likely win the title. Almost 58% said the Celtics.
Wow. Really?
I think it's just they're the defending champs and they have the respect because they can do it. Maybe that's what I would assume because I don't think it's that like definite.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that definite. Worst coach is Brian Keefe of the Wizards by 25%.
Agreed.
Um anon and then players voted on who would win the MVP. 56% said Shea. So, we'll
Rightfully
see.
so.
And this last part is they did NBA player tiers. Like, so there's 1A guys, which are the top of the top in the league, 1B, 1C, and 1D. So basically, it's like, I'll just read through it. So the only people that are the tier 1 NBA players in the league today, players voted on, was Giannis, was Jokic, and was Shea. Those are
Wow.
the
No other names?
those are the only. The short description is, simply put, a player who can reasonably be considered a first team All NBA player, like lock. I maybe again this I would assume this may just be for this year, because I'm gonna read off 1B. So 1B is the guys that didn't make 1A, they're the tier right below. Luca, Jason Tatum. That's it. So, and
Wow.
this is basically the same thing, like the same description. Um this is basically the same description. And I was a little intrigued by the Luca thing. And the first thing that it says was in question was, has Luca shown his floor? As in, they think that Luca is done. Like, what he is how he'll be for the rest of his career. And if that's so, I think he's a 1A player. Like, he's averages the second most career playoff points. He's almost averaged a triple double multiple times in his very short NBA career. And he led that not great Dallas team to a finals already. So I think Luca could totally be 1A, but maybe it's because of injury stuff for this year.
I'm still surprised that they only had 3 people as 1A. Like, what about Shea, the guy who averaged
He
33
was the
points?
other 1A. Shea,
But
Giannis, Jokic were the 1As, the
okay,
three 1As.
I'm sorry, so I misheard you. So Shea, Giannis, Jokic. Well, I'm surprised. What about like Anthony Edwards?
Well, we're gonna get there. There's 2 more tiers. So
Okay.
1C, which is just the third tier of players. This is talking about in the league. It's not talking about obviously on the Olympic or whatever. Tier C is pretty much all the old guys. Curry, Durant, LeBron are the third tier of players.
Mm, wow.
And then the fourth tier of players is Wemby and Anthony Edwards. That's it.
Wow.
And then that's the end of it. That's the end of the tiers.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know about that list.
I think
Like,
Anthony Edwards is in at least 1C.
I think he probably should be like 1B at least,
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum
I,
1B,
I
but
I don't
oh,
think that he's definitely better than Wemby.
yeah.
And honestly, I think I would probably take him over all of the old heads except maybe LeBron.
Yeah,
Maybe.
because LeBron, his track record speaks for himself. But yeah, to only have, I mean, a little disrespect to the old guys, which I get it. But Steph is still playing at an incredibly high level. Also, Durant's not in the playoffs. His ass is home in Cancun.
Yeah.
LeBron's still playing at a high level at 40 years old.
Yeah.
Still better than 95% of the league, but outside of Jokic. So I don't agree with that list at all. I don't
Yeah.
like that.
That was surprising to me. It was because, again, I think a lot of those guys are higher, and I think there are guys that weren't mentioned too that are still in a top 10 category, like theoretically, like maybe they're not guaranteed, but they should at least be in a conversation.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Um, Before we continue, I want to say, we said, hopefully Dame gets better. Elijah Arenas, Gilbert Arenas' son, had a pretty awful thing
Yeah.
a few days ago where he was in a Cybertruck accident and he was put in a medically induced coma. They did wake him from it pretty much a day later. I actually just saw a thing before we started recording that it looks like he will be leaving the hospital anytime now with almost no injuries. The real concern was just he inhaled a lot of smoke. Did you see the video?
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah, the Cybertruck was pretty much wrecked.
It was
Uh,
destroyed.
yeah, so that was a very, very scary video, especially if you're a parent, you see that, you automatically think of the absolute worst, which is gut blowing. gut wrenching. But yeah, the God was on his side. To see that car wreck and have been pretty much little to no injuries at all is going to be fine. His basketball career is not in jeopardy. Hell, his life is not in jeopardy. That just goes to show you God is a real thing. So, great news for Gilbert Arenas and Elijah Arenas, and we're just happy to hear about that. But yeah, that video was, ooh, that did
Yeah.
not look good.
Um, Next we'll do, so a few weeks ago, this was before the playoffs started. I was watching ESPN, and Kendrick Perkins gave his top 5 contenders. So his number one contender is Boston. His
Okay,
number 2 is the Thunder. His
okay,
number 3 is the Warriors. His number 4 is Cleveland, and his number 5 are the Clippers. And I will say Shannon Sharp and Brian Windhorst were also there. Shannon Sharp only agreed with 1 and 2, which was the Celtics and Thunder, and he said the Lakers are over all those other
oh
teams,
my God,
which is a thing that you probably were expecting when I said
yeah.
Shannon Sharp. And then Brian Windhorst agreed with it all. All of Shannon Sharp, all of Kendrick Perkins stuff, that whole list, the top 5. How do we think about some of that?
This is exact reason why ESPN is not seen as pure basketball analyst. It's an entertainment. That's what it's
Right.
having its name, Entertainment Sports Programming Network. First of all, we all know the whole Shannon Sharp situation. He's a Lakers fanboy. He needs to be worried about what's going on in the courtroom. Secondly, second, secondly, to have the Warriors, I can see why he has the Warriors. That the Warriors added Jimmy Butler. They're like what 18-3 with him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they don't have any bench. Okay. You
Mm-hmm.
go up if they go up against a big lineup, they're gonna get exposed. Draymond Green is not guarding any fives. All right. He can hold his own, but you think he's gonna hold his own against like a Jokic or hell, even a Karl Anthony Towns or what? No, he's gonna get exposed. So we all know, especially Golden State Warriors, this is literally their last year. Steph is like what 37.
Mm-hmm.
Draymond's 35 and Jimmy Butler's 35. They got one more year left, and after that, they're gonna blow it all up. Um, Again, I agree with the Celtics and OKC. They're young. They have a mix of youth and experience on their roster. I would like to also, I gotta include this team, and I've been really, really surprised by them. I gotta include the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again,
Uh-huh.
maybe it's just recency bias, especially
Yeah.
the series that they're going on with the LA Lakers. But a lot of people, majority of people, picked the Lakers to beat the Timberwolves, and boy, they are making us look like fools right before our very own eyes because of that man wearing number 5,
So
Anthony
I
Edwards.
did see this before the playoffs, I will say. This was before the playoffs, so technically, like, obviously, everything that's
Okay,
happening in the current series, they didn't know.
okay.
But this
So
was a thing from a few weeks ago.
yeah, so even before the playoffs, but the Warriors should probably number 5 on that list.
Yeah.
Um, I understand why Shannon Sharp said the Lakers because again, Luca, LeBron on
Yeah.
paper, that's arguably the best duo in the league. I wouldn't put them at 3. I'd probably put them at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like I said, I don't. ESPN, bro, for Brian Williams to say that.
They don't
I only agree with number 2.
basketball.
Yeah, I only agree with 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
The disrespect to the Cleveland Cavaliers, they should be
They
3.
should be
Okay,
third.
they finished what? They won 64 games.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're a well balanced team. Donovan Mitchell is a legit superstar, in my opinion, in this league. So the fact that he continues to get disrespected just goes to show you that these people do not watch Cleveland Cavaliers games. They only watch games that's on national television. The Cleveland Cavaliers are good. As we speak, they're about to sweep the Miami Heat, with a legendary Hall of Fame coach in Eric Spoelstra. And I believe he's still one of the best coaches in this league because I said again, he does more with less than a lot of coaches do more with more. So in my list, I would have had again Boston, OKC, 1 or 2. We could flip flop either of them because again, gotta show respect to the defending champions.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 would be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 4, in my opinion, would be I'll probably put the Denver Nuggets. Again, Jokic still
Okay.
got to show respect to Jokic, even though they haven't been good. And I can understand why he put the Clippers because the Clippers they finished the regular season very, very strong,
Yeah.
and they're in a dogfight right now with the Denver Nuggets. So those are my top 5. Lakers again, I can understand why he put. Actually, you know what? Luka and LeBron, but again, Luka, LeBron, when you have those two big stars, I always said before, it's going to take a year for them to actually gel together, and they don't even they're missing a
Yeah.
center. So that's going to be my top five. Clippers will get number five for the last spot for teams that could compete for a championship because they finished the season very, very strong. And it's the first time Kawhi Leonard has finished the season healthy and he's balling. So that's my top five.
You talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers about to sweep the Miami Heat. You want to know what the score is? About 2 minutes left in the first half.
What is it?
70-25. The Heat are down by 45 points. It's not even halftime
No
yet.
way, you're lying.
Yeah, 70-25.
Wow.
They are
Yeah,
just bricking and bricking and bricking. Man, it's bad.
Miami threw in the towel. They just said fuck it.
Yeah, it's rough, but
Sheesh.
yeah,
Allah.
I think the
Yeah.
top three should be unanimous in whatever order. I think Thunder would be number one for me. I think I would still have to go Boston number two and Cleveland number three. The 4 and 5, it is like you could go like a Lakers Golden State thing. You could think about the Clippers, but honestly, if I'm talking about how this was made before the playoffs, I don't know if I would have had Clippers as top five. So I guess I would probably go in a way of Lakers and I would probably be Lakers 4, maybe Nuggets 5.
Now, did he make this right before the playoffs started or like a month before the playoffs started?
Yeah, I think it was right before. I meant to bring this up on a past episode, but I forgot to bring it. But it wasn't like a month ago. It was like two. It was I think it was right before the playoffs started
Okay.
because it was. I'm pretty sure once we figured out what teams were finalized
Oh, okay. Yeah, I said if you
postseason.
didn't have the Clippers, man, like I said, if it was the Clippers, they ended the season what on 18-2.
Yeah.
Harden's
So
balling, Zubox is in the conversation for most improved player.
yeah.
Kawhi Leonard's finally finished the season healthy, man. I would be surprised if they were able to get past Denver. Like
Mhm.
Clippers are a good team.
Yeah. Um. All right. And then how do we feel about the physicality of the playoffs so far? I feel like every game I've watched, I've seen something, whether it's an altercation, maybe a hard foul, maybe someone getting in someone else's face. And we've seen some fouls that have been some people deem as dirty, some people deem as it being, an unfortunate circumstance, which I think is what we would call them, and obviously we are talking about Jimmy Butler and John Morant. Um, how do you specifically those two? Because those are the ones that are kind of player to player involved. Obviously, we Damian Lillard, rough postseason, rough way to end the season. Obviously, going from the blood clots, he came back in about 4 weeks to be ready for game two of the playoffs. He had a really bad first 3 games of the playoffs. I think he's only averaged like 7 points in the first, I guess it was like 2.5 games. And then in the first quarter last night, he went down with an Achilles injury, and it deemed that he's out for a torn left Achilles, which will end his season, and he probably won't be back until around Christmas of next year. But Jimmy and Ja, how do you are those? Do you think either of those are dirty, or was it someone else's fault, or was it just unfortunate mishaps?
Um, First, the physicality, like I said, playoff intensity when the playoffs rise is going to
Right.
be more physical. Referees, they don't blow their whistle as much,
Hmm.
so that's how it should be. In terms of the whole Jimmy Butler and Josh situation, I did look at the play. I believe it was Amen Thompson who went underneath Jimmy Butler, which caused Jimmy Butler to fall flat on his back and injure his tailbone. There was some people say, well, if Draymond Green was also involved in that play, maybe Amen Thompson tipped over Draymond Green. We have never seen any instance of Amen Thompson being a dirty player. He doesn't kick people in the nuts. He doesn't purposely trip people. So, again, when you're going for a loose ball or offensive rebound, stuff like that happens. I wouldn't call it dirty. I would call it, unintentional accident because I don't think Amen Thompson meant to injure Jimmy Butler like that, especially too. So looking at it again with John Morant, that one was more a little bit dirty because Ja was already airborne by the time, and I believe it was Lou Dort who nicked him. And again, Lou Dort does not have a record
No.
of being a dirty player, but that was a dirty play. And I don't think nobody was really underneath him. So, regardless if Ja played in that series or not, they still would have gotten swept.
Mhm.
Yeah, Lou Dort was a dirty play, not a dirty player. But Amen Thompson, I'm just gonna call that a freak accident because Draymond Green and other bodies were involved in that play. And especially again, he's like he's not over there like trying to purposely push Butler while he's in the air. He's going for a loose rebound.
Mhm.
But and overall, the whole physicality of the playoffs, man, I like it. I'm gonna, refer back to the Pistons and Knicks series. It's been very, very nip and tuck. A lot of commentators is like this is giving vibes of the '90s, and this is what fans want. Hell, this is what all players want because players who are analysts now are quick to poo-poo and shit on the product, saying, "Yo, these players are now soft nowadays. They don't get physical. They want out every single call." And now, come playoff times, where the physicality elevates, they're
Mhm.
the same ones who's like, oh my God, that's a foul. This is a foul. Why is the referees not calling anything? Well, you're the same people just a couple weeks ago before the playoffs started saying that the league is too soft and that these players are too soft. So it just goes to show you the hypocrisy of not only ex players, but also NBA fans. Listen, injuries happen. They're a part of any athletic sports that you play. It's just, it is what it is. Also, you don't want to purposely injure a player. But I like it. Like I said, physicality, referees let them play a little bit. Your season's on the line, and there's only one team at the end of the day, come June, that can hold that Larry O'Brien trophy and forever immortalize themselves as NBA champions. So I like it. What about you?
Yeah, so I made a video about this talking about in less words, you know, these guys are some of the greatest competitors in the world. They've been competing their whole life to be a top, obviously, basketball player in the world. That's why they're in the NBA. And when you put it into the playoffs where the, you know, tensions are higher, the stakes are higher, everyone is ultimately has the same goal, whether they are an 8 seed or they are a 1 seed. They want to get to the finals. They want to beat their opponent in as small amount of games as they have to. And then so I think it's just all the, again, the higher stakes and just competitors competing versus each other. Um, Now for the Amen Thompson and Lou Dort stuff, I did say pretty much that they were just unfortunate circumstances where, Amen Thompson kind of got stuck between like Draymond. I think it was Steven Adams, and then there was one other player trying to box out Steven Adams too on his other side, and he kind of just got stuck and fell forward, and it just so happened that Jimmy Butler was in front of him going up for a rebound, and he kind of knocked him out the air. Unfortunate circumstance. Again, Amen Thompson is not somebody that is going to purposely try to do anything. We saw the thing with Tyler Hero earlier in the season, which I'm not going to say anything about because I like Amen Thompson. But again, I don't, he's not a dirty player. Even the Lou Dort thing, it was, because he was going to chase down Scottie Pippen, who was on a fast break, and Scottie Pippen kind of threw a behind the back pass to Ja, and we know Ja, he's either going to go over you or through you, no matter what, to try and get that dunk or that layup. And he's gotten hurt a lot of times in his career by doing that. The same thing that happened. And the fact that Lou Dort slipped and then tried to go up and get it, again, it can be seemed as a dirty thing, but it's certainly not intentional, like how some people make it to look out. I also said that they're like 98% of NBA players, they will jaw at each other, they will do whatever, they might have a dirty foul. They don't, as soon as that buzzer ends, they're fine. They're cool outside of the court. We saw Tyrese and Dame have been going at each other all series. And the first thing Tyrese said in his press conference yesterday before anyone asked a question was he was shouting out Dame and hoping he was well, saying how much he respects him, even though every game so far, whether Dame was playing or not, we saw them going at each other. So I think when you talk about the intentionalness or the dirtiness of some of these fouls, whether they are the ones that got players injured or they are, just common fouls that maybe, oh, refs got to take a closer look at. I don't think we've seen any ejections so far in the playoffs because of a flagrant foul or anything. I think we've seen flagrant fouls given out, but we haven't seen a flagrant two. We haven't seen anyone be out for more than a game. I think the most, again, Ja was out, Jimmy was out for a game, and then Tatum was out for one game. They're all Jimmy's coming back tonight. Ja, obviously, the Grizzlies got swept, so they're out anyways. And Tatum came back after game 2. So I think it's just the physicality. But I mean, I like it too. Like you said, a lot of people whine and complain about the game that it is today because it's not as physical or it's not as hand checking or anything like that. But that's just showing the game changes. And the fact that we are getting all this, I think, just brings out the excitement for some of those people that just like to nitpick. But I think it's really elevated I mean, this is the first round. This isn't the conference finals. This is like we're seeing, one seeds go at, we're seeing an 8 seed come out of 1 seed. We're seeing it in every series so far. So I think it's good. I think it's good.
Yeah, and especially want to point out too, like look at the play in game 4 where Anthony Edwards is going back on defense and he purposely pushes LeBron James and he
Yeah.
kept pushing him and pushing him. And then these two, they're getting tangled in the paint. LeBron is backing up Ant-Man, Ant-Man's pushing him, and Ant-Man is a pretty strong dude. He's not backing down. If
Hmm.
that was the regular season, the referees probably would have called the foul on Anthony Edwards for pushing LeBron James, but they
Yeah.
said no, this is the playoffs. These are two of the top 5 players going at each other. Set the tone. People want to see high level competitive basketball, especially too when you're paying top dollar and they're charging an arm and a leg to see these players compete at the high level. Let them play.
Hmm.
So I like it. I'm all for it. You know what I mean? And like I said, I don't know why same fans who complain, oh, it's too soft to do this and that. And once it comes time to show that they can get physical, it's like, no, somebody's gonna get hurt. The referee's not doing the job. So it's just a whole bunch of BS and nonsense. And want to go back to the whole Jason Tatum, like with Jason Tatum when he went up for a dunk, that they're trying to make a play on the ball. It's not like Jason Tatum got pushed in midair. He tried to make a play
Hmm.
on the ball, and unfortunately, Jason Tatum fell wrong and injured his wrist. Obviously, it wasn't too severe. He missed one game, but it happens,
Hmm.
especially too when you're going airborne, when you're like 10 feet in the air. You
Hmm.
first you can't fall properly. Hopefully and hoping that you don't break anything. Freak injuries happen in the game of basketball. So it is what it is, but I like it. And like you mentioned, it's only a first round. Imagine when it gets to like second round, conference finals, and NBA finals. There's there's gonna be a busted lip. Hell, look at Porzingis, got hit right in the fucking forehead and had to get a couple of stitches. And Joe
Yeah.
Mazzulla is like, I like that. Like they need to see that. No, like yo, like this is what players and fans come to see. Like, obviously, we don't want to see nobody seriously get hurt, but it's like, yo,
Right.
he's putting everything on the line. And again, it was an accidental, elbow to his forehead. So
Hmm.
it is what it is. I like it. Again, as long as nobody's getting seriously hurt, injuries are firstly part of the game, but this is what fans and the audience came to see. Now I want to ask you one question. What
Hmm.
about the officiating so far of the NBA finals? Because there has been a lot of criticism, especially with the ending of game 4 between the Knicks and the Pistons with that Tim Hardaway, that foul not getting called on Josh Hart for fouling him on a 3-point attempt. What do you think? That was just one incident, but what do you think of the officiating so far in these playoffs in the first round?
Um, Generally the officiating, I mean, again, I'm not someone that likes to do that because a lot, especially in the playoffs, everything is such you got to make a decision quick. It's a 50-50 call. And let's be for real, a lot of the time the refs do a good job. They get it right. And if they don't, you challenge or they review if it's end of game. There have been some questionable moments. I hate to say it. I know the Knicks are your team. Josh Hart fouled Tim Hardaway Jr.
Of course.
Um, but what I don't like is that Tim Hardaway Jr. went for the foul instead of trying to make the shot. He did the pump fake. Josh Hart maybe could have blocked it. Josh Hart's a good defender. Josh Hart's athletic enough to block it. But Tim Hardaway Jr. went for the awkward shot that tried to lead to a foul. And when players do that, they ultimately make the refs make a game deciding decision, like a game altering decision. And that's something that the players do complain about because, oh, the refs are determining the ends of these games too quick. It's because of moments like that. So maybe if Tim Hardaway Jr. just took the first shot instead of pump faking, again, maybe he would have got blocked. Maybe he would have sunk it. Maybe he would have got called for a foul anyways. But when you hunt for a foul like that, the NBA has done a better job since, like 2018 of when like Harden would always abuse that and like Kevin Durant would always abuse those things. They've done a better job with not letting the player that's on offense initiate the contact in most cases. But I mean, Josh Hart fouled him, so we're good. We'll get to it. The Knicks could easily be down 3-1 in this series instead of up 3-1 in this series. I'm not just because of that game, because that only would have made it 2-2, but a lot of different things. But I do think though, with this physicality that we talk about, it does get to a point though, because even though I like that they're not giving out, pretty much all the technical fouls we've seen have been offsetting technical fouls where they are, one player from each side will get it, and then you like no free throws, pretty much no consequence. But especially in the series with my favorite team, the Celtics, it gets to a point like KCP has done quite a few things this series to kind of try and get like Al Horford to come and confront him. And I'm not saying I don't want the Celtics to get bailed out because they're ejecting a KCP or they're doing whatever, but it gets to a point where sometimes you need to give out a tech just to show the refs that we still have control of this game and you can't just do anything. Because when you do let things go on so much, that's how you see again, none of those were really dirty, but that's how you see some of the, harder fouls that result in flagrants, even though, or, need to review. But the officiating, again, they're obviously, there's always room for improvement, but I wouldn't say it's been the worst thing league wide. There are definitely its moments, though, I will say for sure.
I would agree with you. Generally, the referees, the officials do a great job, because again, you're calling everything at high speed.
Mm-hmm.
Players are going 50, 100 miles an hour. And like you said, you're on the spot. You have to make an instant decision. But my whole thing is, what's the point of the 2-minute report if A, it doesn't change the outcome of the game,
Okay, I see what
and
you
B, referees don't get fined for missing blatant calls? Because here's my problem with the NBA. They are so quick to fine a player for criticizing the officials, rightfully so, when they missed an obvious call that can alter the outcome of a game.
Hmm.
But then the NBA comes up with the 2-minute reporting, and I'm all for it. I like that the NBA has transparency to its NBA audience. Like, hey, you know what? The referees, they got it wrong. This is where they got it wrong. We apologize. Okay, you still can't take away that win from that team and give them a loss, or you still can't take away that loss column to that team and give them a win. Like, the Pistons are still down 3-1. You're not going to take away a win from the Knicks and change the series to tie up 2-2. Like, the final is the final. Even again, as egregious as that was, it's not going to change the outcome. So that's my only thing. Like I said, the NBA, Adam Silver, so quick to find these players for criticizing an official, but where are the officials' fines and consequences for missing blatant, obvious calls? Because again, that's how coaches get fired, GMs get fired, players get traded, and drastically change the outcome of that series. Like, again, the momentum is severely shifted back to the Knicks, and we're just talking about the Knicks Pistons series right now. Mm-hmm. Now, again, instead of being tied 2-2 and all, they're down 3-1, and now teams like, well, you know what? Now a lot of teams come back for 3-1. They're probably already ready to throw to pack it up for the season, start planning their trip to Cancun. So that's the thing I don't like. And I want to go back to a play a couple of weeks ago when Westbrook fouled Nickeil Alexander-Walker on that 3-point line. I believe that foul is also getting called in the playoffs because it was clear, it was blatant, it was contact. According to the letter of the law, if you make a contact with a jump shooter, that's a foul, 10 out of 10. So if you're calling it in late game situations in the regular season, you have to be consistent and call that in the postseason. And we have seen calls in the postseason where somebody got fouled, and you don't want to have the game in the referee's hands. But if you got fouled, they're going to call. It's like, no, like, you fouled that person, they're going to the free throw line. So that's the only thing that I wanted to add to that. Like, again, if the 2-minute report does not change the outcome of the game or doesn't have any kind of consequences for referees missing blatant calls, then there's no need for it. I like the transparency. I understand it, but just how Adam Silver and NBA is quick to find these players for calling out the officials when they're not doing their job, they should
Hmm.
have the same consequence. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I see what you mean with the 2 minute report because especially if it's your team, it's like, well, why are you telling me this? Because now I'm just more upset because I could have won the game if I was the Pistons, you know. But I do like it though because I do like to see like the real like again there's not and people need to understand that with challenges you can't use them for everything, you can't use them in every circumstance. Like there was a play in the end of the Celtics game that they lost to the Magic where Franz shot a three to with like 3 seconds left, and it was a long rebound, and the Celtics got, I think Derek White got his hand on the ball and they called timeout quick, but he,
Mhm.
you know, by the time the person that controls the clock stopped the clock, it was only zero point 0.3 seconds. But you know, they reviewed it. Um, well, they were reviewing to see if we got the timeout off in time, you know, before the buzzer sounded. But they didn't add more time back on the clock, which it would have been around a second because they didn't I don't know what the exact explanation was, but basically they can't review that, they can't add more time on the clock unless the clock expired. So you know there's multiple situations where some challenges can't be used, and again you only get one per game unless you win the first one and then you can get a second one. But I do understand why some people don't like the 2 minute report. I will say, because sometimes it is like a slap in the face because it's like you're saying this, but what am I getting out of this other than knowing that the ref just, you know, missed a game winning call?
Yeah. And especially too, like I want to play a scenario. You're a Boston Celtics fan. Let's say it's game 7 of the NBA finals. The Larry
Well,
O'Brien trophy's at stake. Jason Tatum gets whacked across his wrist by Shea Gilgeous Alexander going up for a layup. And then
mhm,
the game's over. Oklahoma City Thunder win by 1 point.
yeah,
How would Jason Tatum feel, the Boston Celtics feel, Boston Celtics fans, Joe Mazzulla feels? Everybody know, like, you guys fucking robbed us. Like, do your job, because again, if they go into post game and berate the officials for missing the obvious call, next day they're getting a fine. Talk about they have to pay $25,000
yeah,
for criticizing officials. Yet the officials are going to be scot free.
yeah,
They're fine. No punishment to them for not making an egregious call. Which again, that's how coaches get fired, players get traded and stuff like that, because you cost them a severe game. So that's what I mean by that. It's like
yeah,
it
yeah,
has to be consistent on both ends, because again, like, the officials do affect the game, whether they can affect the game the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Just how if you're gonna call a foul where somebody's going for a jump shot, they get fouled or they get taps around the wrist. Like for example, the whole Anthony Edwards thing. I think the game 4, Anthony Edwards is going for a layup. LeBron James smacks the ball out of bounds. They rule the Lakers ball. But I believe Minnesota Timberwolves head coach
yeah,
challenged the play. And then they said, oh, actually, LeBron James fouled Anthony Edwards because he smacked his hand, which caused the ball to go out. So
mhm,
if they're able to look at a play to say, no, that should be our ball. And then the referees look at it and they say, actually, you know what? That should have been a foul. And then they call the foul. They have to be able to have some type of that same thing
yeah.
towards final moments, because they're literally gonna look, okay, well, is it Minnesota Timberwolves ball, Lakers balls? Oh, actually, it was a foul, and they came back, they called the foul on LeBron. I've never seen that before, where they're looking at a play to see who was the last player that touched the basketball, and then the referees change it to a foul.
Yeah, that is a new thing. I think the challenge was initially brought to the NBA in 2021, but I think as of last year, they can look on it like that's a perfect scenario where the ball went out and they called it Lakers ball. No foul was originally called, but they can now review and see if there was something else, and they can end up calling a foul on the play, which I understand because it should only be if they called a foul initially, then it can get taken away. So I understand that. It happened in one of the Celtic games too, where the ball went off of one of the Celtic players and the Magic challenged it, but they technically So and the ball that when they reviewed it, the ball did go off a Celtics player, so it should have been the Magic ball, but they noticed that a Magic player had fouled whoever it was to make the ball go out of bounds. So the Magic challenged it, but they ended up getting a foul called on them even though it was their challenge. So that's a new thing that isn't how it always was. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, the game 7 thing, again, the 2-minute report and all that, that's a slap in the face. If I mean, hell, if it's game 7, that's more like a kick in the face, honestly, because of how much higher the stakes are. But I think that everything under 2 minutes should get looked at. If it's like an out of bounds, I won't say foul because then that defeats the purpose of a challenge. I think all the out of bounds should 100% be looked at. I think all of the shot clock violations, if it's close, should get looked at no matter what. I think the fouls you leave to the challenge because that's what the challenge is for, and that's the value of having your challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Like I said,
Yeah.
overall, refs do a great job, but in crucial moments, like you said, anything under 2 minutes gets reviewed. If it's like out of bounds, if the
Mhm,
ball goes out of bounds, they don't know who last touched it, and they're able to look at fouls. They should
mhm.
do the exact same thing too, because everybody in the arena, even some Knicks players, are like, "Oh yeah, he fouled him. Let's hope the
Yeah,
referee ain't looked at." And they gotta wait. The Pistons got screwed. They got
yeah.
screwed.
And it was in Detroit.
Yeah.
That's a rough one to
Mhm.
lose, but let's recap. I believe the last time we talked was at the end of every game 1. I think we reviewed all the game 1s, and a lot of teams have already played game 4 or are playing game 4 tonight. We're not going to go in depth about every series, but some series will require more attention than others. First series, let's get it out the way. Thunder swept the Grizzlies. I think this was it was a pretty easy series, especially once Ja went down. We saw in game 3 the Thunder made basically 30-point comeback once Ja did go down, and they ended up ultimately completing a sweep. Do you have anything to say about the Thunder?
Yeah, no, I thought they would have swept Minnesota even with Ja. I'm not Minnesota. I thought they would have swept Memphis even if Ja was playing without or without him. If it would have been a gentleman's sweep regardless. So yeah, nothing else to add.
Um, and then we got Nuggets Clippers. This is, I believe, the only series currently that is tied 2-2. We saw one of the closest game winners I have ever seen. Honestly, looking at it, I think I still don't know if Aaron Gordon actually got it off in time. That's why dunking a game winner is one of the hardest things ever to judge, because if it's in the net and your finger is still touching it because you're dunking it, it doesn't count. That's why, honestly, it's just easier to catch it and just drop it right in instead of dunking it all the way down. But obviously, a dunk is more secure than a layup is. But we have seen a lot of great performances. Kawhi Leonard has looked like a top 6 player in the even hell, top 5 player in the playoffs so far. He has been super efficient throughout the playoffs, and um just he's just had a great playoffs. He's averaging 26, 7, and 4. Harden's averaging 21 and 10, basically. Even Jokic is averaging 29, 13, and 11. What do you think about this playoffs or this series so far?
I said it. I think that this series is going to go 6, if not 7. Both teams are evenly matched. Like I said, the Clippers, they ended the regular season hot. James Harden has had a resurgence year. Zubac, arguably probably going to win most improved player of the year. Obviously, he's in that conversation.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard, the first time he finished the regular season healthy and is actually balling, as you just mentioned. So I think that this series is going to go all the way. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers win. But yeah, you want to talk about that game-winning dunk by Eric Gordon. First of all, what the hell was Jokic doing? Jokic thought that he was
Yeah, that
Kobe
was
or something.
that was really
A
bad.
fucking what? Like he did like a pretty much a step back fadeaway 3 over
Mhm.
two defenders like Jokic. You are the best player in today's game, but you are not Kobe Bryant. That is
Yeah.
not your shot. Don't ever do
Mhm.
that bullshit again. Eric
Yeah.
Gordon came to the save, and like I said, I think maybe the reason why the referees counted it because it's again it has to be indisputable evidence to
Yeah.
overturn it.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it, there was a little bit of space between the basketball and his hand. So as long as the basketball is out of his hands, they're gonna count it. So
Mhm.
it was close. I thought he got it in, but looking at it from the naked eye, the fact that the referees called it right on the play and they were right, in my
Yeah.
opinion, yeah, that was insane. Like these two teams are evenly matched, and it's going to be a fun series to watch. I hope it goes all the way down towards the wire. We are
Mhm.
prepping for a game 7, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going all the way to 7.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I mean, yeah, that was maybe one of the worst game-winning attempts I've ever seen, and for it to come from a guy like Jokic, who Jokic is the greatest player in the league, but he's not like that.
No,
He's not hitting that. He's not Harden. He's not Jalen Brunson. He's that was one of the most ridiculous shots I've seen, and especially for it to come from a guy like him,
he was
it was something.
he was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't want to give me most clutch player award. Fine, I'm gonna show you. I step back 3. I'm like,
But
what
he
the
proved everyone right. um, but I hope this goes to 7. Um, I think I think I'm still picking the Clippers because the Clippers were that close to again going up 3-1, and I just like overall what I've seen from a team aspect. I've liked what I've seen from the Clippers a lot more than what I have from the Nuggets team. Um, Next we got the Lakers and Timberwolves, which is 3-1 for the Timberwolves. I mean, a 6 seeded Timberwolves. I mean, how many times did I say you cannot sleep on the Timberwolves? They are not their record may not be as good as the Nuggets or as anything like this. They were close to even being a play-in team. They have handled business, and specifically Anthony Edwards has shown why he is a top 10 player in this league.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, I want to talk about that game for a little bit. JJ Redick cost the Lakers that game. To not make any second half substitutions whatsoever, to have your starting 5 play the entire 24 minutes is
Mhm.
utterly ridiculous. He took a page out of Tom Thibodeau's book. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to play you guys. Your starting center, Jackson Hayes, plays 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Gabe Vincent had the same amount of points as me and you, and we were sitting at home watching the game on our couches. What
Yeah.
in the hell? LeBron was obviously gassed. Luka was gassed because every time the Timberwolves attacked them on defense, and what is Luka's biggest, notch against his game is defense. He's going to cook everybody offensively, but defensively, he can't stay in front of a cone. And the more
Yeah.
the longer the game went, the more he got tired, and that's exactly what the Timberwolves did. So this loss is on JJ Redick. You cannot play your players the entirety of the second half. Timberwolves, they go deep into their bench. Randall played
Yeah.
43 minutes. Jaden McDaniels had a fantastic game. He was the X factor in game 4. Again, we all clown Rudy Gobert. He's going to start the first half, play a good amount of minutes, but they're going to sit him out, as the game gets closer. Mike Conley, we thought that, he's on his way to retirement. He played 25 minutes in that game.
Blocked
DiVincenzo
LeBron.
played DiVincenzo played 29 minutes. Nas Reed played 20 minutes. Nikhil Alexander-Walker played 12 minutes. And this is the thing we talked about with the playoffs. It's all about matchups. Now, yes, me and you had the Lakers both winning in this series, but the key factor was that the Lakers do not have it big. And as you know, as a slouch as Rudy Gobert is in the postseason when it comes to defense, they have another guy, Nas Reed, who can literally come off the bench. They can sit Rudy Gobert's ass down, and Nas Reed can defend, can shoot, can block shots. He's more athletic than Rudy Gobert. It's a mismatch nightmare for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Anthony Edwards is coming for everybody's head. But yeah, this loss was on JJ Redick.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, I mean, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, he's playmaking more than what he normally is, which is, what happens to a lot of these guys. I think that when you take that, like, especially when you are looked at as a scorer, as like a Anthony Edwards, as a, how Jason Tatum was, how Shea is, and maybe they weren't plus playmakers when they came into the league. I think when you take that superstar leap is when you are able to make that quick decision, and you can be really the playmaker on your team, even though that's not what you came in the league to do. And that's what Anthony Edwards has done. I mean, again, 6 assists. I mean, Julius Randle, 22 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Naz Reid, just how you were talking, gives that team a completely new look because Naz Reid is like he's like a shooting guard stuck in a center's body because he can
Yeah.
handle the ball. He's named Big Jelly for a reason.
Hmm.
Um, and he's won 6 man of the year last year. Jane McDaniels, like you said, he's averaging 20 so far in the playoffs. He's had a few big games so far, but yeah, they've just been too much for the Lakers defense. And again, Luka's averaging 31, 7 and 5. He's had a great first playoff series with the Lakers. LeBron has had a couple lackluster games, but ultimately still averaging 26, 9 and 5. I will say I don't think they've gotten what they would like out of Austin Reeves so far, just in totality. I think sure he's had moments, sure he's, whatever, but I, I think they were hoping for a little more out of Austin Reeves.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. It hasn't been his best playoff performance so far. But I just want to go back too, especially with the Lakers. They had two or three crucial turnovers in the final
Yes.
minute of that game. And it was just off lazy passes. And lazy passes is a sign of fatigue, of your self-awareness is not there. So that just goes to show. And looking at Luka's box score in game 4, he had 38 points but 2 assists. That's not like
Yep.
Luka in terms of the assist category. Luka's gonna get you at least 10, if not 8 to 10 assists a game. He's known for averaging triple double. So that just goes to show you that Luka wasn't trusted his teammates because they weren't JJ Redick wasn't playing any of them. So it's like, okay, I gotta score most of the basketball. But 2 assists, 1 rebound, Luka's getting at least 10 rebounds and 10 assists in those games. So, you know, Austin Reeves again didn't play well, but Luka, that wasn't his game. I
Mhm.
don't want, I mean to sound like a broken record, but because again, when you don't give your starters a rest and you don't go to your bench, your player's gonna get tired. Fatigue
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. And Luka, they've done a really good job of limiting Luka's assists. I mean, the couple games before that, he had 8 and then 9 assists. But I believe in their first game, he had a similar thing like that. Yeah, in game one, he had 1 assist,
Hmm.
and I mean, he had 1 assist,
And that's
and
why they
he's not
lost game
getting
one.
his typical triple double that he maybe gets pretty much every game, but I think that's just applauding the Timberwolves even more because I think no matter how bad you talk about the defense or the fatigue of a guy like Luca and a 40-year-old LeBron, we all know what they could do offensively, and the fact that offensively they've been I mean, they just haven't been, like either LeBron has a game or Luca has a game. They both haven't had that 35 point, near triple double for both of them game that I think they could both do on an almost night to night basis. So I think this is just it's just something that the Timberwolves should get even more credit for doing.
Yeah.
Because I think honestly, if you look at after the Towns trade, I don't think people thought the same about the Timberwolves because you lose a guy like Towns who fit perfectly next to a guy like Rudy Gobert and even Anthony Edwards, and you trade him for Julius Randle, who he's not always the greatest shooter. He likes having the ball in his hands where he can operate. He's a better defender than Cat, but I just don't think people trusted the Timberwolves the same, and I think they're proving them wrong, even as the lower seed.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. They could go all the way to the conference finals and have a
Yeah.
matchup with, OKC.
Last West series, we've got Houston and Golden State, who is up 2 games to 1. The Warriors are on the Rockets. They play later tonight. Again, like we talked about, Jimmy Butler is playing in this game. I didn't see anything about a minutes restriction. I didn't see anything like that. But we know Jimmy. We know how he gets in the playoffs. He's gonna play if he can, and he's gonna play as much as he can. But Steph's had a great series, 29, 6 and 7. I mean, Jimmy had a couple good games. I think the first game was a really good game where he had almost 30. But he's only averaging 14, 4 and 3. They're not getting a lot of offense other than Curry consistently. They're getting help from everybody. I mean, Pods, Moody, Healed, they're all averaging 8. Kaminga in his one game played, he's averaging 9. Which that's a I don't how do you feel about that? Kaminga?
Uh, yeah, I would like to see Kaminga get more playing time. I mean, there's been rumors that they're gonna move on from him next
Yeah.
year, but Kaminga, if he was given more opportunities, I think the Warriors, in my opinion, would be one of the favorites to win because Kaminga is a mismatch nightmare. He's like what 6'7", 6'8",
Mhm.
long, lengthy, athletic. Can block shots. He even has a nice little mid range game to him. But
Mhm.
again, their Warriors are just stacked at the guard position with Curry, you got Buddy Hill, you got Brandon Pazimski, Moody has been getting a lot of playing time. Gary Payton is there
Yeah.
for defense. So I think the fact that their guard four positions just so stacked, there's just not enough minutes for Kaminga consistently in that series.
Yeah, and I think especially in a series like this where it's a super young, athletic, and big team, like you would think that this is a series where you maybe get a lot of Jonathan Kaminga minutes and maybe not so many, like Gary Payton minutes, who's a basically a 6'2" power forward,
Mm-hmm.
or Buddy Hield, who doesn't really have a lot of defensive upside to him. Sure, he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, but I just think there's more that they could do.
Yeah, I agree. Um, with the Rockets, yeah, with the Houston Rockets, Jalen Green is going to shoot them in a game, and he's also going to shoot them out of a game. You mentioned Jalen Green is going to be the X factor for Houston. And game one, he had like 7 points. Houston Rockets lost. Game two, he had like what 30 some points. Houston Rockets win. And in game three, he only had 9 points, and the Houston Rockets lost. So he's literally the X factor. If he comes out and shoots the Golden State Warriors into a game and shoots his own team out of the game, they're going home in 5 because they're going back to Houston. Steph Curry is a closer. Butler's available. Butler's also a closer. They're going to close this out in 5. So Jalen Green better have a good ass game in game 4.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, nobody really jumps off the page stat wise. Um, Houston just based off averages because again, this is a team that'll do it by committee. And again, I still believe the Rockets they need to win tonight for that belief to still happen because I don't think the Warriors are blowing a 3-1 lead. Um, but yeah, I mean, Jalen Green, he's just I love watching him. He's just so inconsistent. Like again, one night he'll have 38, the next night he'll have 9. Um, and then Fred Van Vliet, man, he might be even worse than Jalen Green this playoffs because he had the one game where he was like 3 for 18. He had a good start to their last game. So it's just a roller coaster of just people not being as consistent. And again, that's why I think that their offseason could be so intriguing because if they get somebody that they can rely on just a little bit more and hopefully not have to give up too much, I think they become a real threat when you do that. But I mean, Sengun has given Draymond the work all like this whole series. He seems to do that pretty much every time they play. I don't know why Draymond can't get a grasp of like what Sengun does, but Sengun does his thing. But this has been a good series. I would like to see 7 of these as well.
Same, same.
Going on to the East, Cleveland and Miami. I gave you a score update. There's 3 minutes left in the third quarter. The Cleveland is up 103 to 57, still almost a 50 pointer.
Jesus.
So Cleveland will be moving on to the conference finals or conference semifinals, excuse me, after tonight. And you know, again, this is probably the series I've watched the least amount of. They've missed, like, Darius Garland's not even playing tonight. Um, and I don't think this is his first game missed either. But they're just handling business. I mean, Cavs should again make it to the conference finals, pretty much no problem.
Yeah, looks like looks like the Miami Heat learned a thing or two from the Memphis Grizzlies in game 1 of their series versus OKC, and the Cleveland Cavaliers learned a thing or two from Oklahoma City Thunder in game 1 against the Memphis Grizzlies. Like a 50-point blowout is just absurd. But yeah, we knew that this was going to be a quick and easy series. Like you just mentioned, everybody has, the matchup of the Cavs versus the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals is going to be must-see TV. So I don't have much to say about that.
Yeah. Pacers Bucks. Pacers are doing it again. They're up 3-1. Again, we talked. I mean, Damian Lillard tore his left Achilles. He wasn't providing too much, anyways. If we're being honest, they've gotten some good minutes from a guy like Kevin Porter Jr., who's done his thing. Kyle Kuzma, man, 6 points in the playoffs so far is what he's averaging. 1 rebound, 1 assist. The one game that they won, Gary Trent had to go off for almost 40 and had to set a Milwaukee Bucks franchise high on 3-pointers made in the playoffs with 9. So they've gotten some good stuff from Bobby Portis, 14 and 8. I mean, Giannis is averaging 34 and 14. He's doing everything he can to try. He's trying as hard as he can, but this is another series where the Pacers they're getting a lot from a lot of different people. Whether you're looking at, I mean, Halliburton's only averaging 15, 12 assists, 7 rebounds. Siakam 22 and 6, Miles Turner 16, Benedict Mathurin 12, Nemhard 15, Neesmith 14. Like, they're just getting so much production that the Bucks just can't do. Like, the Bucks aren't getting that production in their starting lineup. Never mind the bench. So, honestly, they play tomorrow. They're the first game tomorrow. I think this is it. I think this is ending tomorrow night.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to agree with you as well. And we said it as well too, that if Damian Lillard plays in this series, when we made our player predictions back then, if Damian Lillard plays in this series, the Bucks are winning. If Damian Lillard does not play in the series, the Bucks are going home. And that's exactly what's going on. And just after the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship back in 2021, they have just been snake bitten by injury each year, playoff after playoff. 2022 was Chris Middleton going down. 2023 it was Giannis going down. Last year they had Giannis, Dame. I believe Bobby Portis was hurt, but Giannis, Dame, the two head of the horse were out. And now this year, Dame, who missed game 1, who missed the last month of the season with blood clots, and then like you mentioned, probably came back a little bit too early from the blood clots because he wasn't looking like the Damian Lillard that we know. And then goes down with that dreadful Achilles tendon tear, which is arguably one of the worst injuries in basketball. And his season is done. He's gonna miss all of next year as well too, because that's a year-long recovery. You just start the question like, yo, is Giannis gonna want to stay in Milwaukee after this year? Is Giannis gonna unfortunately, request a trade because he's been the most loyal superstar so far that we've seen? Giannis probably like, you know what? Dame's gonna be out for a whole year, so that's another year of my prime down the drain. Giannis like, yo, listen, Milwaukee Bucks fans, I gave you guys a championship, okay? But Giannis is 30, gonna be 31 soon, probably 33 years old when Dame comes back. He's probably like, yeah, I need to maximize my window to continue to win multiple titles and add to my resume. And I don't think it's gonna be Milwaukee. Like I said, Milwaukee, they have done everything that they can, but injuries have just been a pain in the ass for them. And like I said before, again, going back in time, I love that they did the trade to get Damian Lillard. Anybody would trade trade for Damian Lillard because he's a superstar point guard. But the fact that when they gave up Jrue Holiday, they pretty much gifted the Boston Celtics last year's championship ring. If they had found some way to keep Jrue Holiday and trade away Chris Middleton, who was riddled with injuries, then the Bucks will now be in this position because even if Dame goes down, you have a guy and Drew Holiday who may not be as offensively skilled as Dame Lillard, but he's able to hold his own on the defensive end. And it just sucks, man. It just sucks. You know, feel bad for obviously Dame Lillard, speedy recovery for that man. But Giannis is literally has to seriously consider his future, and he doesn't have anything left to prove to the Milwaukee Bucks fans. He is arguably the greatest Milwaukee Buck of all time. He's gonna have his jersey retired, but it's like, listen, he's 30. I believe he's gonna be 31 soon. The NBA is not forever. You're in your prime. That your prime does not last forever. And Giannis is competitive as they come. He wants to add more championships to his resume, and that's not going to happen in the foreseeable future with the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think it's time for him to find a new place to go. And also, too, hell, fucking Doc Rivers probably going to get fired after this year.
He should.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead. I think he's going to get fired, and they should have never fired their previous head coach because how the hell do you fire a head coach that had you sitting second in the Eastern Conference, and then you bring in Doc Rivers, a guy who has the most records for blowing the most 3-1 leads, and who's still living off that 2008 championship ring when he was carried by Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and hell, even Rajon Rondo. So after that, the Milwaukee Bucks shot themselves in the foot. But yeah, go ahead. What else you got to say about that? Because I just feel bad for Giannis and Dame, man.
Yeah, I mean this. I who knows if this is how it's going to be, but this should be Doc Rivers' last coaching gig.
Yeah.
I think before he had plans where he was going to do stuff with ESPN, and then he got the calls from Milwaukee, and he was like, all right, that's going to get put on hold because I got to go, whatever. But yeah, I agree. They haven't looked the same since then. And the game that the Bucks won was the first game, the playoff game, Giannis won in over 1,000 days.
Jesus.
I think the last time he won a playoff game was 2022. We're in 2025 and Giannis hasn't won a playoff. And yes, last year he missed all the playoffs. The year before he missed some of the playoffs too. And then and obviously Chris Middleton had his injuries pile on him. They, like you said, they traded Drew. Which I don't think, if you told the Bucks that, hey, you're going to trade Drew to the Blazers for Damian Lillard, but they told you, yeah, we're going to flip him to the Celtics, would they still do that trade?
Probably not.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. Yeah.
Maybe if they were a West team, maybe, because there's more opportunities for someone to knock them out. But there's a world where maybe you have a bad start to the season, or maybe the Celtics don't start off to where they wanted, and they you face each other in the first round or something, or the second. Like, it just, that's something they just didn't want to happen. And like you said, that was pretty much a reason to why the Celtics were looked at as this powerhouse last year. And even this year, again, there's more teams that can battle against them. But yeah, I mean, Dame, I don't know. I mean, when I talked about this, I said that the Bucks are kind of looking like how Phoenix is looking, not as awful as Phoenix, because if you think about it on paper, you got the two guys up front talking about Dame and Giannis, obviously them, Book and Durant. Both great players. They both will probably end up making the Hall of Fame. I would assume Devin Booker ends up making it at some point, but the other three are going to make the Hall of Fame. They had, their Bradley Beal. They had their Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton to start off with before obviously the Kuzma trade. And then, sure, the Bucks made the playoffs, which is something the Suns couldn't do, which still blows my mind, but they're not a second apron team anymore because they made the Kuzma trade, who is cheaper, but they don't have a lot of draft capital. And the draft picks that they do have, like the Pelicans have the rights to them, or some other team has the rights to the picks that they have left. And you trade Giannis to it's come out like Brooklyn is maybe a spot for Giannis because they'll have a top-ish pick, they'll have money, and they have the market. But like, you trade Giannis and then you're going to make Dame sit on this team. And Dame might as well have just stayed in Portland, honestly. Like, or he should have went to Miami a couple years ago, or wherever else that it was rumored to go. But uh, it's such a hard thing to say. But I think the only thing that they can do, unless they just completely they keep the top two and they scrap the rest. I don't want to see Brook Lopez back on this team. Brook Lopez is pushing 40 as well. He's been pretty reliable for his age and what he does. He's been a defensive player of the year candidate. He's a great, he fits alongside Giannis, but he's like 38. I mean, their bench is made up of players like that, like Kevin Porter Jr. wasn't on the team to start this year. Torian Prince wasn't on the team last year. I mean, they had to resort to guys like AJ Green and, just people that probably shouldn't be playing many minutes on a playoff contending team. And I think what you have to do is you got to keep the two up top and just scrap the rest, or you got to scrap it all, which again, it might be a hard thing to hear because a franchise like Milwaukee isn't going to come around to Giannis just easily like that, especially when you look at Giannis wasn't a lottery pick. I think he was 15th, but and he wasn't looked at as one of these franchise altering players when he came out. And then you could acquire a guy like Dame because of the pull that Giannis has, and you can't make anything out of it. It's not great.
Yeah. And my thing is like if you're the Bucks owner, you're the Bucks GM, how do you convince Giannis to stay? Because all of this is running through his mind. He's like, okay, we're going home in the first round again to the same team that beat us last year because we were hit with injuries. Dame is going to be out for a full year, and Achilles is a full year recovery. Ask Kevin Durant, ask Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, ask DeMarcus Cousins. That's a full year long recovery. Dame Lillard right now is 34 years old. He turns 35 in July. So he's going to miss a whole year. He won't come back until he's close to 36 years old.
Yeah.
And he's probably has maybe 2-3 years max playing at a high level. So Giannis is 30 right now. He won't turn 31 until December. He's not going to have Dame for next year. So he's going to have Dame when he's 32 years old. Are you going to tell Giannis, hey, Giannis, we are unfortunately going to have to waste a year of your prime because Dame is going to be on the shelves recovering? Can you give us a year and then maybe we'll find something, maybe try to get another all-star, another superstar to come and pair with you? But again, what do the Bucks have to offer? Like, yes, everybody would like to play with Giannis because he's a great player, but they don't have no other trade assets. Brook Lopez is old. You talk about Gary Trent Jr. You can get a couple players for him, but it's not that much. So Bobby Portis maybe might be on the trading block. Obviously, if you trade Bobby, Bucks fans are going to be upset because he's the mayor of that city. But you're going to have to make some tough decisions because again, it's all centered around number 34. You want to keep that guy in a green jersey until the end of his career, and you really have to go with them saying, "Hey, we're gonna have to, unfortunately waste a year of your prime." You just acquired Kevin Porter Jr. What are you gonna get for him? Brook Lopez, as you mentioned, should not be back on his team next year. Gary Trent Jr., Torian Prince, Pat Connaughton, AJ Green. These players do not move the needle. You just acquired Kyle Kuzma, who looked like a shell of himself. So Giannis is probably has to be seriously thinking like, yo, I have to as he talked about not, switching teams and loyalty, he's probably going to have to pull the move that he talked so bad about because, again, it's not his fault. It's just injuries are just an unfortunate and unlucky part of the National Basketball Association. And he's just going to be like, well, I can't wait on Dame to come back, and he's 36, and who knows what he's going to look like as a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles tear. Now, maybe he can have like a Kevin Durant revitalization. Who knows? But that's in the 2026-2027 season.
Yeah. And I think the part that really makes it all difficult is the fact that they have to be traded. Giannis and Dame are not, it's not like they're going into free agency this year or even next year. They are wrapped. They just signed not that long ago. I believe Giannis signed when they got Dame. So he's still got years left. And I think he's still got like at least 3 years left, maybe 4. And whatever I looked at this, whatever Giannis has, Dame has one more year guaranteed than Giannis does.
Yeah.
So you're looking at least 3 years. And by then, with the way that Giannis plays, I mean, you can't say that he's going to play like how he is until he's 38 because just of the way that he does play, how it's such an enduring thing on his body, and how he's not a plus jump shooter. It just, yeah, I don't know if Giannis wants to do more winning, which I think that Giannis should not only end his career with one ring. If Giannis wants to do more winning, he's got to at least explore other avenues. That's not Milwaukee.
Mhm.
Unless Milwaukee is showing you something concrete that you can rely and depend on, which I can't see what it is, unless they just somehow land something out of nowhere or they do something miraculous. I think that he's got to have that tough conversation with his agent, with the owners, the general managers, his family, whoever else needs to, know about this.
Yeah, boy. Bucks GM John Horst, he's got a lot of work to do in the off season and next year. We'll see what happens with that situation. But yeah,
Did he just get extended? Was he the GM that just got extended?
I think in 2000, yeah, I think he just signed an extension. I don't think not too long
Yeah,
ago. Let me see. Yeah.
which is crazy because I mean,
Yeah, actually, yeah, 4 days ago.
yeah,
John Horst, yeah, they got into extension. No, now he's like, oh shit. Now I have to deal with this, situation,
yeah,
this mess.
he's gonna have a lot on his plate this summer. But the next series we have is the Pistons and Knicks. Knicks are up 3-1. Um, like I said earlier, this this is maybe two to three possessions away from being a 3-1 series the opposite way. And if I'm the Knicks, I mean, they've had a great series. Jalen Brunson has been a superstar in the playoffs. He hasn't had a game below 30 this playoff so far. Cats looked pretty good for most of the games. You've gotten a little bit from OG and Mikal in different games too, but man, the Pistons are putting them to work, and I don't think that's something that the Knicks were necessarily expecting in their first round matchup versus a team like Detroit who just rejuvenated themselves after one of the worst seasons of all time.
Yeah, the Knicks should be thanking the refs that they're up 3-1 instead of being tied 2-2, because this series should be tied 2-2 at minimum. And
Yeah.
the Knicks went to Detroit Pistons, and I believe they won a total of 3 points between game 3 and game 4.
Hmm.
All the possessions came down to the final
Yeah.
wire. And I think the Knicks had to know, like, okay, like this Piston team, they're gritty, they're pesky, they're annoying, they play defense, they get up into you. I don't even think that any of these games went over 100 points, because the
Yeah.
last game 4 was 93-94. I
Yeah.
don't think any game in this series went over 100 points. So that
Hmm.
just goes to show you how rugged the defense is and how physical this series has been. But like I said, the Knicks are up 3-1, and this is coming from a Knicks fan. I love the Knicks. They should
Hmm.
be tied 2-2 and all, but can't go back into the past. Also, I think the Knicks take care of business in 5. I don't think they want to go back to Detroit and
No.
possibly give them any momentum. So it's at the Garden. They're gonna look to end it. But man, Carl Anthony Towns, whoo, he hit some big shots in
Yeah.
this series. Oh man, he is proving to anybody, like, yeah, you want to talk about the best big man shooters. Also, you got Dirk. Probably gonna have to start putting his name in that category as well too,
Mhm.
because Cat is the real deal. But yeah, I think like I said, I think the series ends in 5, no later than 6.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that the Knicks should hope for because again, it's so hard to say any team is likable or not likable. It's probable for anybody to blow a 3-1 lead, but I think you're right. If you go back to Madison Square Garden for game 5 and the Pistons take that, and then you go to game 6, like you said, they go back to Detroit, and then you give them the possibility of maybe taking that. I mean, you don't want to go to a game 7. If you're the Knicks and you're looking ahead in the playoff bracket and you see who's coming next, which is the Celtics, which the second round matchup of episodes that you get from Celtics versus Knicks, as both fans are up here, I think will be fun. But yeah, I don't know. I get it's been super close. It's been super physical. We've seen. I mean, Isaiah Stewart has been out the past couple games, so he hasn't got in on his action as of recently. But we've seen like yesterday's game. Ron Holland got worked up pretty quick. We've seen that throughout his rookie season that his temper flares a little quicker than some other players, and Cade had to push him out the way and get they had to give him some time because he was really just trying to. People were getting under his skin, and I think that, again, that's just the intensity of the playoffs that comes with it. And yeah, I think that the Knicks can close this out in 5.
Yeah, agree.
And then the last series we've got Boston versus Orlando. Um, Orlando ended up taking one. They ended up winning game 3 by one possession because, or not because, they just ended up winning game 3 by one possession. Again, the Orlando's defense is good at times. It's just their offense. It's so and I can't explain how much I dislike seeing Franz Wagner shoot a 3-pointer. Man, he's like he shoots so he's got like a hitch in his shot. He looks like slow-mo. He looks like Kyle Anderson when he shoots. And the fact that he takes the most 3-pointers on this team in the playoffs so far, it's not a great sign. KCP hasn't given them anything. Cole Anthony hasn't given them anything. You've had a few moments from Wendell Carter. I mean, even Paolo's done everything he can, but that the offense has been really bad, and the Celtics are just showing that. I mean, obviously they're the better team, and they're doing what they need to, and hopefully we handle them in 5 as well. And we don't give them any sort of like confidence going into the next games. But how do you how do you feel about this series? I saw that
Oh, I'm still laughing at the fact that you said you can't stand, you hate when Franz Wagner shoots a three. He
dude,
looks like slow mo.
I mean, it's not pretty to look at, and he's not a great shooter. Like it's and the fact that he's trying to shoot
Oh
step
man,
backs, he's trying to shoot whatever. And the fact that I'm saying this, and in game 3 when they won, his 3-point shot saved them because he bricked so bad the Celtics couldn't get the rebound in time.
true, yeah.
So maybe it's not that bad of a thing, but when you're down 3-1, you're only getting production from those two. You're not KCP's not doing what you want for paying him 20 plus million. And granted, KCP's not an all-star. He's nowhere near an all-star. And I hate how much people put on his plate when he got signed there because they're acting like, ooh, Orlando's the 30th best offense in the league. KCP is going to take them up to 15th because no, KCP is going to make maybe 2 or 3 threes a game. Maybe he'll get a dunk. I mean, he's there for mainly defensive purposes, but he just hasn't been great. And the
Yeah,
fact that the part that baffles me about this series is how much Jason Tatum loves to go at Paolo. Like Paolo is like their best defender that they have that's healthy because Jalen Suggs isn't there. He's also like the biggest and strongest body they have, but for some reason, Tatum just loves to attack him. And I mean, it's worked. It's like 50-50 when he's done it, but he's done a great job going at him, which surprises me because he's a big body. He's bigger than Tatum. So
yeah. I guess it's just that Duke brother and rivalry that's going on.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I same thing. I knew the Celtics would beat them. I thought at most it probably would go 6 just to give respect to the Magic, but the Magic can't hang. Obviously they have some injuries on their side, but they just can't hang. This team is just too well equipped for them. So yeah, nothing much to add there. Like I
yeah,
said, they're probably gonna end this in 5.
yeah,
Gentlemen sweep.
yeah. And then when we do that again, we'll come back. We'll talk about round 2 predictions. We'll review who we think will win. We'll talk about all that, what we saw from the first series, and we'll be here to preview the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, should be good. Should be good, man. We already got one. Well, technically, 2 teams already in round 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can't wait for the more playoffs to continue. So that is it for another episode of Hoops All In. As we mentioned again, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and comment down below. Also, don't forget to listen to the audio version of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbeam. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Keith's YouTube channel at Keith HAI, and follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. For Wells Francois, Keith Bazin signing off. We'll be back next time for another episode of Hoops All In. Take care, everybody.